fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
After 7 action-packed rounds, it all comes down to this. The Oceanic Dirt Sim Events Big Block Modified Madness Tour, supported by Racecraft Simulations, comes to a close tonight here at the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And the biggest story has been one of the most dominant season runs that ODSE has seen yet, certainly for us here at SimSpeed TV. It's been all about Joel Berkeley of Slick Sim Sport, who stands on the precipice of sealing the crown. I'm Reese Gardner, and joining me in the commentary box tonight is Jay Kennedy, usually in the director's seat, but getting on the mic tonight. Jay, final round. The championship is pretty much Joel Berkeley's at this point. It's all about who's going to be decided outside that top three.
Yeah, hello everyone, and yeah, you're right. It's Berkeley's now. He's turned up to race, and that's pretty much all he needed to do to win the championship. So, big congratulations to Joel. But the rest of the championship, as you said, there's a lot to go. Still go on. Look, 4th back to 8th there. That is really, really open. Even Lewis Hewitt, and then the next group behind that, Clark, Boyd, Hobson. That is very, very tight too. So we've still got a lot to fight for, basically from 3rd, 4th, 5th down the whole way through the field.
Indeed, we have, and Clark and Boyd are currently in the server tonight. Brenton Hobson, not part of the grid here at the dirt track at Charlotte.
No, he's out there.
Oh, is he? Okay,
yes, he is.
Righto. I completely missed that.
P6. No surprise in practice.
Oh, yep. Yeah, no surprise at all there. P6, and I mean, usually, Jay, you're shouting in my ear when I get stuff like that wrong, but now it's on display for everyone to hear. So there we go. The Gardner gaff is out of the way, and we can move on. But yeah, Joel Berkeley with 400 passing points. That's a good chunk of the championship lead that he has over James Edens. And even with drop rounds, there's no assailing that Australian up there in the top spot. And incidentally, James Edens, the American, his teammate at Slick Sim Sports, the only other driver to win a feature this season. So that really tells you something about how well Joel Berkeley's done in these big block modifieds.
It's been a dominant season. It's not even been close, has it? Just the way he's done and performed throughout this championship. It's just been incredible. And sadly, it's probably the reason why we've seen a little bit of a drop-off in drivers, but you can't fault the guy for winning 6 out of 7, and the other one, he finishes 2nd. Definitely a deserving winner of the championship. Yeah,
100% agreed, but yeah, as you touched on there, Jay, we do have a reduced grid here tonight for the final round. Only 17 cars here. James Edens has just started loading into the server to join the 16 that are currently here at the dirt track at Charlotte. And looking at the practice times, Trent Gosley, well, he was P1, but Josh Harm just pipping him to provisional P1 in the practice timesheets. 15.6 seconds seems to be the fastest kind of lap around here. And looking at the cars go around, really getting a sense of how big, quick and wide this track is. There's plenty of room for hard racing.
100%. It's going to be a very, very interesting race. It's a very, very cool track. As we were talking before we came on the air, this is, for you and I, both of us, this is in our top 2 dirt tracks. We love coming here. We love watching racing here. We love commentating racing here. And the racing is usually, out of all of the broadcast races we've done here, usually it's really, really good. So fingers crossed we see another great show. But the practice times look very, very close as well, as we're not far away from getting into qualifying.
Indeed, and it's going to be the same story as for the whole season, 3 minutes and 2 laps, which each driver gets to set their spot on the grid for the heats. Seeing another driver jumping into the server now, Ryan Gorton, who's going to bring it up to 18 entries here tonight. But now we're just going to wait for race administrator Brady Baldwin to put the session forward. He'll probably wait until Gorton is confirmed to be in the server. But drivers like Josh Harm, Trent Gosley, Lewis Hewitt, they currently occupy the top 3 practice time slots. So at least here at the start of the night, Joel Berkeley not quite as on the pace as he would want to be. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have much to prove anymore. He's effectively already won the championship, but Berkeley would like to be there up the front.
Yeah, I mean, Berkeley want to finish with as close to perfect a championship as he can, but it may not work out that way. But I don't think he'd be too unhappy if he crashes out. But he would love to win this race. So, but there's 16 other guys that are going to try and win this last round to show that Berkeley isn't as dominant as we may have thought he was going to be overall. So, I mean, he has been completely dominant, but those guys will be hoping that they can steal a win in this last round as we look at the dragway just over the side. This is an awesome facility. It's one that is on my bucket list. It was never on my bucket list until I joined iRacing, but Charlotte Motor Speedway, dirt track at Charlotte, and the drag strip all side by side. This is definitely up there with motorsport mecca within America now.
Yeah, certainly. Just outside the town of Charlotte in North Carolina, it's one of the birthplaces, the spiritual homes of NASCAR racing in the Southeast United States. Well, the session is advancing forward into qualifying now. We move forward to about 7:15 in the evening in sim time, and the sunset is bringing the track to a lovely shade of golden brown as the drivers make their way out onto the circuit. Mitchell Clark is going to be one of the first to get it out there. Max Lumsden, Kane Della, Trent Gosley also out there, and Gosley and Della have just started their laps, and that is indeed a fantastic view of the facility here. As we pan on over to the dirt track, there is, I believe, that is Trent Gosley making his way around the circuit in the number 4. And Gosley has had a pretty good season. He's had bad luck fall his way a few times as he sets a 15.695 for his first qualifying time, but certainly showed that he can mix it with the top 3 positions this season.
Yeah, he's had a lot more bad luck than he's had good luck, hasn't he? He hasn't had the most successful season, but when things have gone his way, he's been really, really quick. So he'll be looking to have a great performance to end the season. Talk about guys that have had bad luck in this championship as well. Lewis Hewitt definitely would be number 1 in your list of bad luck stories.
Yeah, for sure. Poor Lewis Hewitt. He's definitely had the speed to mix it with Berkeley up at the front, and it's put some great pressure on our championship leader. But unfortunately, he's come together with cars quite a bit, and incidents not all of his own doing as well. And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to go any better than P4 in the overall times. What about Brenton Hobson then in the number 88, who I mistakenly said was not racing tonight? In fact, he is going nice and tight out of the final corner there. Actually, that is turn 2. You always get into that trap when you're commentating on oval races. So Hobbo's first lap then, 15.665. That is P1, going faster than even Gosley.
Wow, what a lap. Great job from Hobbo on his first lap. Josh Harms just finished his final lap. Hobson's going to be the last driver to complete a lap overall, and second lap not quite as quick, but well done from Brenton Hobson. What a way to finish off the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering that...
Is that 2 poles for Hobbo?
I think it is. I think it might be.
2 quick times, I should say.
Yeah, 2 quick times. I can't remember exactly where he got his first one, but certainly in the latter part of the season is where Brenton Hobson has really started to get on the pace. So, I mean, to close off the season like that, well, he's guaranteed a P1 start in Heat 1. So it's Hobson, Gosley, and Clark, your top 3 in terms of the times, and Joel Berkeley running the exact same time as Mitchell Clark, showing you just how hard he is pushing and how close these drivers are.
Yep, 100%. This is a very, very tight field. Top 10 separated by a tenth. The entire field separated by 3 tenths for our 17 drivers as the checker flag waves in that was good from the pace truck. Just had a little dance there. But interesting, we've got smaller heats. So we're going to have 3 heats of 6, 6, and 5. Which that'll actually be very, very interesting. It'll make it a little bit tighter. And it could mean that we won't see a B main as well. So this will be interesting to see.
Shall be indeed. And the grid for the first heat as follows. It's Hobson and Berkeley on the first row with Harmon Bryan behind, Daniel Boyd and Richie McLeod rounding out the 6-car field here. Now, Joel Berkeley starting on the front row. He'll want to waste as little time as possible trying to get around Brenton Hobson and come away with a heat win, which will hopefully for him improve his start in the feature. But we've still got to deal with the random invert in the feature as well.
Yeah, I do know what the random invert is, but I'm not going to say because we determined that a little earlier rather than doing the spinny wheel with the smaller fields. We decided that we'd just determine that a little earlier, so we'll keep that a little hush-hush for now, but it will be a very, very fun night of racing with that invert. But what the invert has done as well, the invert has really helped Berkeley. That one round he had a shocker. He started at the back and he still won the race and got massive, massive passing points in the A main. But every other week starting at the front, getting a big invert and still coming through the field. That's what's basically helped him win that championship.
Yeah, Berkeley's ability to make his way through fields, make up positions quick and sharp, certainly what's brought him into this top spot in the Big Block Modified Madness Tour. The pace truck comes into the pits, and now it's only an extra half a lap the drivers have before they can put the power down and go green. So Hobson is going to take the start here. Berkeley moving a bit down the circuit. Hobson goes very early there, right in the middle of turns 3 and 4. That completely caught Berkeley by surprise. Great jump indeed. And Josh Harm down there on the inside of his teammate Joel Berkeley, trying his best to eke out a second place, but not much is going to be happening there because Berkeley has the traction around the outside. But you see just how wide this circuit is. There's so much room to put cars side by side. At the end of the day, it is still the outside line that gets the traction.
Yeah, it's a really, really wide circuit, as you said. It's really, really well suited for these types of vehicles. It's going to allow some really open racing when we get to the A main, but front four have definitely broken away at the moment. Boyd and McLeod not able to match it with these guys at the front, which they're probably going to be a little bit disappointed about. I think they would have been hoping for a little bit more pace, but what this does too with the smaller field secures them in the A main. It gives them a little bit of time, because this is basically a test session for some of these guys that may be impact runners. Give them a chance to do something different to get into that A main and make a big, big launch as Josh Harm hits the wall hard.
Yeah, getting in there and leaving the door open to an attack from Paul Bryan in the number 42 as Berkeley going to the bottom versus Brenton Hobson. Hobson's just riding the cushion there in the middle of the circuit. You're going to see it moving gradually up towards the wall as the night goes on, and Berkeley trying the late apex, going for a straight line exit.
Let's close that tyre.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the tyres yet, actually. You've got to really look out for them here at Charlotte, especially with how hard you enter the turns. But those tyres, you clip one, Berkeley cutting it fine once again, and you'll be sent up and over. Worst case scenario, you'll get beached on a tyre. But as the final lap begins, looks like Brenton Hobson has it down pat as Harmy goes way to the inside of Berkeley, who clouts the wall and is going to lose touch with that top four. Oh no, he's going to go all the way to the back. Joel Berkeley caught in a spin there as Brenton Hobson is going to come across the line to take victory. Josh Harm in second, Paul Bryan completing the podium. That's a big shame there for Joel Berkeley. Could have got himself potentially an extra couple of spots up the grid, but would have been negated by the invert anyway. Nonetheless, not what he would have wanted from that one.
No, 100%. Very, very disappointed with how that finished in the end, but as you said, still a big chance to get a big chunk of passing points as well. That the one positive with the way that this series is formatted is that the passing points still give you an opportunity, even if you have an absolute shocker. So yeah, I like the concept of passing points, and it's being discussed for future seasons on whether we continue in this style of format or whether we do something different in regards to how the point structure is. I'm in two minds. I don't mind it.
Yeah, me either. I think that, obviously, I think this series has been a perfect storm. Joel Berkeley just seems to have gelled with this style of car to a greater extent than anyone in this field, and that's why the passing points have been where he's made his gains. But, you know, I reckon there's definitely potential for this format in other kinds of racing, as this is the grid then for Heat 2. Gosley and Hewitt on the front row, Edens, Wilson, Russell and Della rounding out the 6 cars. And this seems like quite the competitive heat here. I would call any number of these drivers to potentially take victory. We know how skilled James Edens is, Trent Gosley, Lewis Hewitt, Darcy Wilson and Jaden Russell, along with Kane Della. They have yet to taste truly great honours here in the modifieds.
Yeah, as you said, very, very competitive field. All 5 drivers. All 6 drivers really are legitimate chances of winning not just this heat, but definitely giving the overall night a legitimate run. So we've seen great form out of Jaden Russell and Kay Della and Darcy Wilson. James Edens, don't need to talk too much about his performances. Gosley and Hewitt as well. fantastic drivers. So it's going to be another interesting heat right now.
Indeed. Green and Trent Gosley getting a slight jump there over Lewis Hewitt, but everyone's sticking with him. James Edens going to flip to the inside, all the way down to the inside tyre barriers and work his way up into second. But Hewitt with the outside line getting a little bit better traction, more momentum, able to keep with the number 52. But Trent Gosley starting to look like he's in a bit of trouble here because Edens is just inching further and further up the side of the number 4. Hewitt making a mistake there in the last couple of turns, put himself back and makes contact with Jaden Russell and Darcy Wilson. It's another example of Lewis Hewitt's season, really. He's had just things like that happen to him that have put him way back as it is on for the lead. Quarter contact between Gosley and Edens. It's looking quite close.
Very much so. It's a really good battle for top 5, essentially. The top 2 in their own little battle, but one minor mistake and we've got a 5-car fight for the lead. As Russell, Hewitt and Wilson have their own little fight. It's a great little battle going on between all of these drivers at the moment.
Indeed it is. Gosley, though, is just working the advantage ahead of Edens on corner exit. Edens is catching him up on entry, starting lap 6 of 8, then only 3 to go in this heat, and Edens will want to waste little time here trying to eke out the lead over Gosley. Looking at the angle of the track from the inside as Hewitt pressures Russell down in the bottom right-hand corner. I absolutely... yeah. I think this circuit as well really highlights how you have to keep these cars as straight as possible to get the maximum out of them. You see drivers really throwing it in, hanging the tail out in the entry to some of these corners, and it ends up costing them time. You want to try and keep it as straight as possible, maximize your exits, as Edens has just done there. Manages to just get ahead of Gosley on the back of the straight, and it's going to be a drag race to the line, almost 4 wide, but Gosley's just going to take it there, with Jaden Russell taking 3rd place. Lewis Hewitt has to settle for 4th there after that contact across the start-finish line, but they've all got tickets straight through to the feature. Unfortunately, Wilson and Della are going to have to make their way through the B main.
Not that the B main's going to be too much of an issue because you get free tickets straight in from that too. Clark and Clark front row here. This will get confusing very quickly. At least we won't call the wrong name. Harry Stewart, Cameron Dance and Max Lumsden ran at the 5 cars in our 3rd heat of the night.
Yes, and if Ryan J. Gorton had managed to get into the server before all of this went off, he would have taken that 6th spot on the Heat 3 grid as they all pull away behind the pace truck. Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't envy the driver's view when the sun starts to get really low. I mean, it's just funny, though, because driving these big block modifieds, you actually can't see much out of them in a vertical sense. They've basically got their own sunshade there with that roof.
The only thing will be that little angle there, because there's no grandstand or anything, it will actually start to affect the drivers a little bit. Most of the other tracks we've been to, the sun is setting behind something. So it's not getting right into the eye line. So that'll be something the drivers may think about later on. But then again, we can always see the time of day change session to session as well. So we may not even have it as an issue, but we'll talk it up anyway.
Yeah, for sure. As the pace truck comes in, it's at least going to be a slight issue for these drivers in this particular heat. So then, the last 4 of the golden ticket spots starting here, as that is an excellent start from Mitchell Clark. Lewis Clark was unable to respond to that one in time, and Cameron Dance already trying to move forward as he gets up the inside of Harry Stewart, though the 2 Kiwis going to be running side by side, I think, for a majority of this race. Dance almost trying the slider there on Stewart, but it's not working out. So now Clark and Clark up the front, getting that very deep entry into the turns, running very high into turn 1, but going very low in turns 3 and 4 there for Mitchell Clark. I'm interested to know the reasoning behind that, as almost an attempted slider there from Lewis Clark, and Harry Stewart gets one up on Cameron Dance there. It was a failed slide job there from the number 6, and the number 11 just slipping through on the exit.
Yep, the 11 versus the 11. There is Dance. Oh, almost made a little bit of contact. Back to Harry Stewart. Nice slider to get it back through, but Harry Stewart doesn't think this one's over. He's going to slide it straight back.
Indeed he is, and I think that's going to continue for some time. Dance then gets underneath Stewart on the exit of turn 4, but Stewart gets into the wall. That's compromised him slightly. Dance, though, washing up the circuit is going to allow Stewart to get back alongside him. Loving watching this fighting here. Hopefully we see racing like this in the feature without too many cautions. Remember, the feature tonight is going to be 60 green flag laps, by far the longest feature we've had this season. The top 2 are broken away and are running side by side, just like these 2 in 3rd and 4th. Mitchell Clark working the outside there, and Lewis Clark just trying his best to jump up the inside of him. Another slider for Harry Stewart on Cameron Dance, and through they go. Great fight indeed.
The only thing that this is doing is giving that gap up to the guys in 1st and 2nd a little bit more breathing room, but that won't worry them too much at this stage. But it is a good little tester to see when it does come time for the A main. But Mitchell Clark is going to win the Clark battle. Lewis Clark will finish 2nd. Harry Stewart, Cameron Dance. Dance is going to get it. Max Lumsden will be the last car to finish. We will now get into the second to last race of the night.
Actually, it looks like
the A main.
Yeah, righto. Okay, straight into the 15-minute warm-up session, which is obviously going to be a lot shorter because they'll want to skip forward. But with that field of
well, I know what the invert number
cars,
is now too, so I can tell you what it is going to be. It's going to be 12.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is a good portion of the field right there. So that means that Harry Stewart is going to start on pole.
Yeah, so that battle between he and Dance basically was the pole position. Although I couldn't say that, but I did know it was that situation.
Oh, well, it also means that Lewis Hewitt is going to get a front row start as well, which he's certainly going to be happy with. Brenton Hobson, though, is going to be starting all the way back in 12th because he would have been P1 on the feature grid, having taken the win in the first heat. Yeah, certainly is. iRacing's dynamic track in full effect here on the dirt ovals. You see a slick line starting to form there up the top of the circuit, and watching the way that the cars bounce across them, you see that there's an awful lot of ruts and dips starting to form along the back stretch. That's going to play havoc with some drivers' stability coming into the turns. So hopefully they'll have worked that out with their setups. On the subject of Joel Berkeley, our champion-elect, thanks to his poor result in the first heat, he's going to be starting all the way back in 16th place. So the invert did absolutely nothing for him, starting second last there with Kane Della. Yeah, for sure, and it looks to me like the very wide line in turn 1 is the way to go. It goes a little bit lower in turns 3 and 4, but you can see Hobson going into the fresher clay there to try and work some kind of line in up at the top, considering that he might need that in the A main. And then straight down to the bottom line, Hobbo checking out how it is there in turns 1 and 2. And, hello, a few cars at a standstill on the front stretch. I'm sure that we won't be seeing that in the feature. Reduced field and, of course, cautions, manual cautions in full effect here tonight.
Yep, and as you said, to 60 lap A main, we will have the lights come on throughout that A main as well, which is always cool to see. So start at sunset and finish in the darkness, which I reckon is really, really cool. That's probably been one of the best features that iRacing have developed over the last few years, and we're only a week away from more, which I don't know if you've seen on social media today, iRacing's release, but Dirt Bristol will be out next week. This time next week, you can race on Dirt Bristol.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, that was big news when it came out that Bristol would be hosting a dirt race in the NASCAR Cup Series. Just taking a whole bunch of clay and dumping it onto Bristol Motor Speedway. And, well, iRacing, of course, very quick on the mark to get a dirt version of Bristol out. Cannot wait to drive it and cannot wait for it to potentially appear on ODSE schedules in the future.
Yeah, 100%. And will actually feature on Fox Sports USA. They will be doing a live broadcast like they did during lockdown last year. They'll be doing a live broadcast, a Pro Invitational, which will be Thursday our time on the 24th of March. So it may not be able to be seen live in Australia, but I'm sure that iRacing will make sure that it's up on social media for people to watch. But that will be really, really cool to have the Fox Sports USA guys basically run a full NASCAR-style broadcast around the dirt track at Charlotte in the NASCAR Cup cars.
That's going to be fantastic. Cannot wait to see that. Well then, the track seems to have been worked in very nicely, and we're not seeing any drivers out on track anymore. They're just making their way through in the pits. Max Lumsden and Joel Berkeley.
Blow their engines up by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, well, Joel Berkeley succeeded. Oh dear. There we go. Advancing through then to the A main here at the dirt track at Charlotte.
See how much the time of day does adjust, which will be an interesting factor. Cool that we didn't. I mean, it's not cool that we've lost a few cars throughout the season, but cool that we don't have that B main to sort of make the racing a little bit weird in regards to who goes where and all that sort of stuff. It's sort of a bit strange having a B main for no reason over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree. With something like this, it's obviously much better to just go straight through to the feature and let the night's results carry out as planned. The way you see them line up here on the grid is not the way they're going to be starting. Of course, Hobson going to be starting in 12th, Gosley 11th, Clark and Harm 10th and 9th. 8th and 7th is going to be James Edens and Lewis Clark. 6 and 5, Paul Bryan and Jaden Russell. 4th and 3rd, Cameron Dance and Daniel Boyd, with the top two positions there, with Harry Stewart and Lewis Hewitt. And then from Richie McLeod back, it is exactly the same as it would be otherwise. They'll be starting in that order. Kane Della and Joel Berkeley, along with Max Lumsden and Darcy Wilson, going to be facing quite a charge here coming up into the A main. And Joel Berkeley is still at a standstill on the grid as they move away. It looks like Berkeley's just gotten going now. Richie McLeod, of course, with Dark Knight Racewear, one of the sponsors of this series. Richie's going to be giving away a pair of gloves to the championship top three. And he certainly has history in ODSE, winning the opening round of the 360 Power Series. So see what he can do. But we're pretty much guaranteed a brand new winner here at Charlotte in terms of track history for ODSE. Tim Ryan currently has the most ODSE wins at Charlotte. He took it at the 360 Power Series, the King of the 360 Series, and the 410 Sprint Car Speed Week back in 2020. Bradley Oldfield has won here twice, and Daniel Hardigan has won here once in the Australian Sprint Car Championship Series last year. But none of those guys are taking part in this particular field. So it's going to be new history being written here at Charlotte for Oceanic Dirt Sim events. Harry Stewart has decided to take the outside line here to take the start, and it's worked out very nicely for him. He and Hewitt fly away from the rest of the field as we are green at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And Harry Stewart going for the straight line exit. Cameron Dance up in third there, trying to get one up on Lewis Hewitt. Paul Bryan, though, is the cork in the bottle. Have a look at how many cars are behind him. He's got Jaden Russell, James Edens, Daniel Boyd, Lewis Clark, Josh Harm, Trent Gosley, Mitchell Clark, basically everyone more towards the rear of the field. Joel Berkeley has already made up 2 positions, meanwhile, having made his way past the United cars of Darcy Wilson and Kane Della.
Yeah, great jump from Joel Berkeley there. I lost in the list who we were talking about there for a second. But a cool little fight going on the whole way through the field, actually. There's lots of really good battles, and finally...
We have indeed. Harry Stewart slips through on the inside there ever so briefly, but Hewitt's going to come back at him here down the back straight, taking the lead back. Cameron Dance is really keeping these guys honest, but have a look at James Edens there in the number 52. He's sticking all the way to the bottom through the turns, and there goes Cameron Dance up the inside of Harry Stewart, who clatters the wall, and he's going to lose a bunch of positions out of that one. Well, 2 to start off with, but then he's going to face that pressure from Josh Harm and Jaden Russell just behind. For Harry Stewart, after starting on pole, he's got a little bit more work to do now.
Yeah, got a lot of work to do, really, and just seeing Mitchell Clark starting to drop back through the field in the 0. So he's got a little bit of work to do as well. But Hewitt starting to break away, Dance sticking with him, and James Edens, where has he come from? He's up in the 3rd and putting a lot of pressure on Cameron Dance.
Indeed he is, and Edens seems pretty comfortable there up at the wall, trying to open the door on the inside for a run through turns 3 and 4, but Cameron Dance back on the throttle, quick, sharp, and keeps ahead. Lewis Hewitt gets into the wall, though, just up ahead there in the lead, and that's going to bring Dance right into contention now for the lead of the race. The top 3 together once again, but this time it is Hewitt, Dance, and Edens. And James really backing it into those turns there. Meanwhile, just behind them, Josh Harm has got Paul Bryan and Harry Stewart for very close company. Having a look just behind these guys, Stewart is still sticking to the top line in turns 1 and 2. He seems comfortable there, but he's going to have to be careful about when he turns in, because when you're right in the middle of a field of cars, it's very easy to lose your rhythm.
Yep, exactly right. And the other thing too is it does... sometimes distract you in regards to your vision and things like that too. So if you are following in a pack, you can sometimes make mistakes. We just saw Cameron Dance make a very big one. Going to lose a little bit of time, but we're still green. Great to see. This is our longest stint that we've had, touch wood, all season long for an opening stint. As James Edens now starting to really pressure for the lead with Lewis Hewitt.
Oh no, just as you said that, Jay, the caution has come out.
Commentator's curse still works.
Deary me. It looks like Jaden Russell was the one who came off the worst out of that one, and looks to me like it was started by contact with Trent Gosley. Gosley just went into the side of Russell on entry into turn 3. We're going to get the virtual racing school replay to see what happened there. And yeah, you see Gosley was trying to work his way up the inside, but just went a little too deep into the turn and spun Russell around. And unfortunately, Brenton Hobson finished the job for his teammate, though certainly not intentionally.
There's 2 parts as well, because I've just noticed that Darcy Wilson's had something go wrong too, and he's actually pulled it into the pits and he's done for the night. So something happened there to Darcy Wilson. Maybe something not related to what we were thinking. We will have... It's 47 to go when we restart this race.
Yes, indeed. And then there were 16. With Darcy Wilson retiring, and Trent Gosley has been given an end-of-line penalty for bringing out that caution, turning Jaden Russell around.
Either of us are surprised with that one?
No. Certainly makes sense there. As the field begins to form back up again for this restart, it looks to me like Lewis Hewitt has decided to go for the outside lane start once again, thinking that there is an advantage there with a little bit more fresh clay on the outside. But James Edens is certainly wise to these tactics. He'll know how to respond. He's got to keep an eye out for Cam Dance and Paul Bryan behind, though. Lewis Hewitt on the throttle. James Eden sticking with him there, using the slightly shorter line out of the last corner, but Hewitt slots on ahead into turn 1 and wasting no time on the inside there is Josh Harm to get by Paul Bryan, slot himself ahead of the number 42. Eden's to the inside, nearly clipping the tyre bundles as he continues in his dogged pursuit of Lewis Hewitt here. Cameron Dance still sticking with them as well. And Dance's late season form has been pretty good, I have to say. He took his time getting to grips with the big block modified, but the results are starting to come home for the Kiwi in the number 6. Can't speak too early, though, because there's still plenty of this feature to go. Lewis Hewitt sticking to the outside, nearly feeding the right rear into the wall, and James Eden sticking all the way to the inside. Two differing philosophies and two different comfort zones for these drivers. Yeah. Yeah, he certainly is. Completely balked Josh Harm there and forced him to back up a bit. So now Paul Bryan has a little bit of an extra gap to work with from behind. It seems that as the track gets slicker, Bryan gets faster relative to everyone else. He's comfortable on these slick lines. But that top 3 still as close together as ever as there's another caution out. And looks to me like that was Richie McLeod going for a pirouette there. And, well, having a look at that on the replay, I can see that perhaps Kane Della is going to be taking an EOL. Watch this. Yeah, so the number 79 there.
The 79 and Boyd sort of was forced into McLeod through no fault of his own, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'd say,
one.
Yeah, Della was forced into Boyd there. I think just a little bit. No, actually, no.
Other way around.
I am getting my driver names really confused. So Della was trying to go there for the move on McLeod, but Boyd was coming up, and yeah, they just made contact. I don't know if there's going to be any blame apportioned for that one, but as Richie McLeod pulls into the pits, I think that is night over for him.
Yeah, I think that's him saying that that rollover's hurt the car a little bit more than he would have liked. As Hewitt, once again, to the outside for the restart. You must prefer that outside line, which is no real surprise considering what we've seen in this race with 41 to go.
Yes, indeed. So then, how is James Edens going to handle this jump? Hewitt right on it, and James Eden's right on it as well. Paul Bryan was left behind there and has opened up the door to an attack from Harry Stewart and Joel Berkeley as well on the inside there. Yeah, where did he come from indeed? He's making up position by position and getting himself up into top 5 contention here as the race continues there up the front. James Edens to the inside of Lewis Hewitt. I think he's just about done enough to take the lead here, but no, Hewitt with the extra momentum around the outside, Edens had to give him room there.
Yeah, it's surprising. That was very, very close. As at the line, who had that at the line? That was very, very tight. I'm not sure who actually had it, but that was really, really tight between the two. But Cameron Dance is getting in on this too.
So is Paul Bryan. The top 4 all together now. This is fantastic to see as Hewitt pulls up the massive slider. And James Edens, well, now he's got Dance and Bryan for very close company as there's a big slider from Joel Berkeley behind to try and work his way up into the top 5. He's still battling very hard with Harry Stewart and Josh Harm. But side by side, Lewis Hewitt and James Edens, the pattern begins once again.
You know how I said who was ahead at the line? Wasn't sure. Glad it wasn't the last lap because it was 0.000 at the line at that point.
Goodness me.
That will actually, in a way, that will help Edens as well because as Paul Bryan tries a little slider there, that'll help him understand where he needs to position the car on the last lap to get the run to the line and know how much of a run he needs. So James Edens will have taken that little bit of knowledge that he gained from that little run as Paul Bryan and Cameron Dance change position again. That'll help Edens, but I don't know if Berkeley's got enough to catch up to the guys at the front. He's 0.4 of a second off at the moment, lap time wise, and he's struggling with this little pack between he, Harm, and Clark to make real inroads at the moment.
Yeah, Josh Harm going up the inside of Berkeley once again. Those teammates are going to trade places there as whoa, that was, I think, Hobson and Lewis Clark nearly coming together there. So now the battle behind the top four becomes this between Berkeley and Harm as another change for position between Cameron Dance and Paul Bryan. They're looking like they're going to do a bit of a tango together as James Edens and Lewis Hewitt continue to break away from everyone. Cameron Dance getting into the wall. He had to massively slow up there into turn one. That is 3 positions lost now. He's back with Berkeley, Harm, and Clark.
And just like that, Joel Berkeley's not far away from getting a podium spot.
Whoa.
You can see Paul Bryan just ahead of him as a podium spot. What I was about to say before there was contact between Dance and Bryan, we saw that when there was a lot of fighting in those heats, that it really brought the pack back together and dropped people back down the field as we're getting the halfway this time by. They does really cause a big disadvantage if you do have big battles. Allows the guys ahead to break away and brings the pack behind up. You can see that now. 1.5 seconds between Eden and Bryan. But Berkeley really starting to close in for position number 3.
And have a look at how he's feeding the rears to the wall there. Actually getting into the wall was Joel Berkeley as it's 3 wide behind. Josh Harm, Cameron Dance, and Brenton Hobson all fighting for 7th, 6th, and 5th there with Mitchell Clark. Trent Gosley is all the way back in this pack as well as in the bottom right. You can see Joel Berkeley and just how fine he is cutting it on entry into these turns in his dogged pursuit of Paul Bryan. To the inside he goes, trying the slide job, but Bryan sees him coming and it's just going to slip back through there on the inside. Love watching the onboards as these drivers make their way around the circuit. Another look at Berkeley there. He managed to square off that corner perfectly and go for the move once again down the inside. Will this be enough to secure the championship leader 3rd place? It looks like it might just be here as Bryan has to back off slightly into turn 1 and Berkeley then with the momentum on the outside secures that 3rd place.
All right, let's have a look at this gap now. 1.6 between he and James Edens. Let's check back on that. If we stay green in about 5 laps time and see how much that closes in. We talked about him struggling. I think the car's just better later on in the race, and now he's got a bit of clean air ahead. No one to stress about. Leaders battling. He might close in a lot quicker than we were expecting. Trent Gosley in this little fight with Dance and Clark starting to get a little bit racy as well. Brenton Hobson hasn't been able to make as many inroads as we would have thought as well based on his pace. So he'll probably be a little bit disappointed with how he's moving through the field, but he's in a very, very intense battle at the moment.
Indeed he is, and I think the Synergy car might have been better on a slightly cleaner track because with the amount of slick, the amount that the track's been worked in, you can see that Hobson is really having to work the wheel over these bumps and ruts and tip it in quite aggressively to get the thing turned. However, it does seem like there's not too much of a chance of him making any inroads on the 6 and the 7 at the front of this pack. Josh Harm has held station there for most of the race and running down in the middle of the circuit on the slick line. You're not seeing James Edens and Lewis Hewitt doing that up at the front. Edens and Hewitt are just sticking high now. They're staying well out of that slick groove.
Yeah, they're not anywhere near that slick as we are. 20 to go now that we've crossed the line. But some of these battles are getting a little bit intense. So these positions are really starting to mean a lot as we've now had... should I say it? No, I'm not going to say it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, certainly is. And Gosley, you can see starting to work the bottom of the circuit in the number 4. And I saw a slight technical issue there for Mitchell Clark. Cameron Dance slotting in down ahead of Gosley, trying to use the small strip of fresh clay on the inside to gain a bit of extra momentum there on Josh Harm. But just slots back in ahead and loses a slight bit of momentum as he went over the slick. That's going to open the door up to Mitchell Clark in the number 0. And just sticking himself ahead there as they went through the middle of the corner, but contact on the exit. Clark's going to have to gather that up as Cameron... Oh. Yeah, very nearly. And it's on for the lead as well as, Brian getting into Berkeley down on the inside of turns 1 and 2. But James Edens starting to bring the fight to Lewis Hewitt once again, trying slider after slider into every single turn. But Hewitt there just sticking to the outside. Seems that's his comfort zone. It's his happy place. It's where he can extract the most out of his car. But Edens knows that the laps are starting to fall away, and he can't waste any more time trying to get this lead.
Yeah, 100%. He needs to do it now, because even if it stays green, he's going to have to try and work to get through. And if it doesn't, he knows he's going to be put in the wrong spot at the restart and could even lose positions, considering Berkeley, when he was going along all right, he had some good pace. So...
Ooh. Yeah, and Hewitt there on the inside, firing it into turns 1 and 2 to try and stay ahead, but as he gets up to the groove, gets back on the throttle, tries to lunge out of the corner. The only way he can go is down to the inside as Edens then moves to the top of the circuit. We haven't got very long to go here in the A main, but have a look at that exit from James Edens. Just squaring it off as much as he can while still keeping it roughly on the outside line. Working that slightly fresher clay very well. And these guys have well and truly left Joel Berkeley behind now. Berkeley is on his lonesome. Brian's on his lonesome. Josh Harm has gapped Cameron Dance. The real battles are between Trent Gosley and Mitchell Clark, and then Brinton Hobson, Lewis Clark, and Jaden Russell, with Max Lumsden and Daniel Boyd also battling for 12th and 13th. And Lewis Hewitt and James Edens now are starting to come up on lap traffic right at the end of this race. Kane Della, who is currently running last, as James Edens has managed to work his way into the lead now. Can Hewitt respond before the end? Della might give him the chance he needs.
Yeah, Hewitt's just hit the wall a couple too many times, I think, and just sort of ruined his momentum. Take a couple of laps to get it back and go again. But here's Dance versus Gosley versus Clark. And Hobson and Clark aren't too far away, that being Lewis Clark in the second battle. Mitchell Clark here doing a good job. 7 laps to go. Not long left in this one now. James Edens starting to break a decent gap.
Yeah, indeed he is. And, I mean, James Edens, once he gets into the lead, there's not much stopping him, and he's going to have to stay wide here because Kane Della's down there on the inside of the circuit, but doesn't look like he's going to lose too much ground to Lewis Hewitt out of that as the battle continues there with Gosley, Dance, and Mitchell Clark. These guys all together then on the back straight, and Clark to the inside almost gets into the side of Cameron Dance. Trent Gosley, I think, getting a bit frustrated here because he's been involved in these very close fights for a while, and there we go. Gosley just got the right rear into the wall and has lost all of that time, and Clark getting the run on Dance up the inside, but Dance is going to get him right back here at the exit of the turn. And the battle is going to continue. There's no stopping those guys.
Great fight going on, but not long to go. Only 3 laps now. And Edens now out to a full second lead.
Yeah, goodness me. I think that is race win almost sealed there for the number 52.
There's a car around there.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yeah.
We're gonna...
That's Harmon Gosley
that
have gone
Harmon
around.
Gosley gone around, but we're staying green. I don't know if Race Control even saw that one.
Yeah, well, Josh Harm got into the wall and got spun around. Gosley, who had already entered the turn, didn't have much of any kind of room. So that's what took them out. Unfortunately, they've fallen down the field now. They're in 9th and 10th, battling for those positions. But James Edens is going to come around to begin the final lap here. No, actually,
That's it.
that's going to be victory there for James Edens in the number 52. An excellent victory. Taking one over Lewis Hewitt and Joel Berkeley coming home on the podium, finishing third. Cameron Dance manages to round out the top 5 as Mitchell Clark comes home in 6th. But my goodness, James Edens, I think really nailing it there at the very end.
100%. He's drove a really, really smart race. He was able to pull a little bit of a gap. And what I was going to say, and I didn't want to put the commentator's curse on, was that was our longest green flag run of the season. And I knew as soon as I was going to say it that we were going to have one if I didn't say it. Well done to the drivers for not bringing out another caution. We have 40-odd laps green there at the end. 45 or so.
Indeed. Excellent stuff there from the drivers. By far, the least amount of cautions I think we've seen all season, just the one. So, James Edens is going to take a few more laps here to celebrate, and we'll be able to get him in and have one final chat to him before the season ends proper. But, I mean, the main story, I have to think, is Joel Berkeley sealing the title there, undoubtedly, with that third place. And I don't think you could ask for a better season there from Berkeley.
If you wrote down how to do a perfect season, it was pretty close to it. The worst result for the entire championship of a third. You can't ask for much better than that. So he's done a great job. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to all the drivers and to ODSE for a great championship. So we get some of the drivers coming in for a chat in just a couple of moments.
Indeed, we shall. We want to give a shout out as well to the series sponsors, Racecraft Simulations and Dark Knight Raceware, for their fantastic support. I think that this season, with the racing we've seen, the controversy that we've seen, certainly put a lot of eyes on this championship, and I think you really get a sense of who the people are to beat in ODSE. Drivers like James Edens and Joel Berkeley, Lewis Hewitt, Josh Harm, Trent Gosley, all of those guys, they're able to make their way up to the top and stake their claim for top dirt sim drivers in AusNZ.
As I just realised my mic was muted there. 100% right. I think we're going to see a little bit of a different group of drivers come through now that we've seen some drivers almost break through in this series. So I'm looking forward to the next season of whatever ODSE have got planned. I know they've got a few things in the works over the next few months. So going to be exciting times, and stay tuned to our Facebook page and theirs over the next few weeks and months, because there's plenty of really cool dirt stuff coming up over the next little while as drivers is just still having a little bit of fun and a debrief before they come over for a chat. Berkeley tries for a wall ride.
Good stuff there. Well, certainly we've got a bit to look forward to on the dirt racing front, because we've got the virtual Cricky Boys shootout coming up very soon, Jay. Yep. 2 weeks. I'm going to be really looking forward to that. Going to be in the commentary box with Benny Bishop and Matt Nolte. That's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. So make sure that you tune in 2 weeks' time on SimSpeed TV for that one. We're going to be running it on the Thursday night. Either way, looks like our first and third are in the interview awaiting. And we're going to bring in the number 52 of James Edens to kick things off. Welcome, James. Congratulations on your heat victory. Seemed like you and Lewis were locked in that battle for the whole night.
Yeah, for sure. You know, he was really good out front there, and just, you know, the way the track was, it was really hard to pass. You know, any line, all the lines were pretty even, so it was hard to get a run and make a move. Just, you know, had to be patient and wait for him to get in the wall one time so we could, you know, get a big enough run to throw a slider.
It's, I think, a bit of a welcome change for a lot of drivers that we only saw one caution here tonight. Are you happy that there was such long green flag runs?
I mean, yeah, you always want to see good, clean racing and green flag runs, but, you know, Charlotte's probably the toughest place for that because it gets really rough. I know my wrist was starting to hurt there the last 10 laps, just hanging on through the bumps. So, you know, the one place you probably want to see, you know, a few more cautions but it is what it is.
It is indeed, and you came away with some fantastic pace as well. I think, is it going to be affecting how you prepare for future Oceanic Dirt Sim events, or what are your plans for the future then?
I don't know. We just play it by ear. We'll see what it is. What events they got going on, if they interest me or not. Definitely like the big blocks. So, it was a shame to see the car count dwindle so much towards the end of the season, but that normally happens. But they put on some good shows, so we'll definitely be back in the future.
Certainly hope to be speaking to you again soon, James. Before we let you go, from your top step on the podium, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Got to give a shout out to Joel for his third place finish this week. I don't think he gets to talk any more crap for a while, but he did win the championship. So, but yeah, just got to thank Speed Lab, Slick Sim Sport, Bell Helmets, K1 Race Gear, Race Electronic, HMS Motorsports, and all our supporters.
Thank you very much, James Edens, number 52, coming home in P1 in the feature here at Charlotte. And Lewis Hewitt, it seems, has not made it to the interview box, so we're going to go straight to P3 in the feature and P1 in the championship. Joel Berkeley, my goodness, man, it seemed like a pretty typical race for you, starting near the back and working your way up to near the front.
Yeah, well, since I was idiot in the heat race and threw the heat race away, I guess it made work a bit harder. But had to work hard and come from the back. But yeah, just wish we had a late race, Joe. I felt like had something there. I was searching that entire run, and then I felt like those last 10 laps I found something, but it was 10 laps too late.
What were you struggling to find? Obviously with the track getting as slick as it was, I did notice that, you and Lewis Hewitt were getting the right rear into the wall occasionally. Was it just too slippery out there?
I think, honestly, the right rear in the wall was the quickest way around, I found, right at the end. So you just had to put the right rear quarter panel on the wall and hang it out there, and it was just rip it the entire way. I felt like it was the fastest, but yeah, I think we had one of the fastest cars on the track, but that's what happens when you start deep and make your own issues.
Indeed, but and James Edens touched on this as well. At this particular circuit, which is notorious for getting rough when it's worked in, it's kind of the track where you don't want a super long green flag run. We only had one caution here tonight.
Yeah, no, James is right there. Obviously, here you want as many cautions as you can. Well, not as many cautions you get, but it's nice to have a break here and there, and dread the Cricky Boys race if I'm able to do it, because that's going to be a nightmare with all the bumps here and all that. But I actually don't think I'm home for that one, but it is what it is, and I have real life commitments that date, so yeah.
Well, at the very least, you can be happy that you've come home with the championship victory here in the Big Block Modified Madness series. So it's another jewel to add to your crown of wins. Yeah,
no, it's good to come out with the series win. It was good to battle James and the others throughout the entire season, and it's a shame James had that bad race at USA that 1 week, or what? Wait, no, it was whatever week it was. The week he fell in love, but yeah, that week. But yeah, I'm happy to walk away with the championship and another crown jewel title.
Well, before we let you go, Joel, anyone you'd like to thank for that title?
Yeah, massive thanks to the guys at Slick Sim Sport, guys at Swindell Speed Lab, and all the people that help out there, and you guys for broadcasting, and Brady and Bob for their efforts hosting the league. And yeah, we'll be back, I guess, when the next series starts, if I can't do the Cricky Boys, but I'm pretty much 100% sure I can't do the Cricky Boys unless I get locked out of Victoria. But yeah, we'll see. I've got real life racing on that weekend, so it's not like I can leave to go to Victoria on a Friday.
Fair enough. Joel Berkeley, number 9 and number 1 in the Big Block Modified Madness series. Well then, Jay, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. Joel Berkeley did touch on the next series at Oceanic Dirt Sim Events. Yes, we have the virtual Cricky Boys shootout in 2 weeks' time, but then in April, the 360 Power Series is coming back, and that was my first full-time dirt racing commentary gig. I really fell in love with dirt racing thanks to that series. I can't wait to see it kick off again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I thought we did love having ASC with the 410s, but there's something about the 360s that just brought the field back a bit closer a little bit, so we could see some new names up there fighting for wins. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be really cool. That'll be in April, but of course 2 weeks time, the Cricket Boys, it's going to be an awesome event. Reese, you'll be in for that with 2 legends of real world dirt racing commentary.
Indeed, Benny Bishop and Matt Nolte are going to be joining us here on SimSpeed TV for that one, and I absolutely am raring to go for it. But we thank you very much for joining us tonight. We hope to see you there at the Cricket Boys shootout. And, well, I guess all that is left now is to give one more final thanks to all of the drivers that turned up across the season and put on the show that we were able to bring to you. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you very much to Dark Knight Raceware and to Racekraft Simulations for their support of this series, and of course to Oceanic Dirt Sim Events themselves, Bob King, Brady Baldwin, all of those guys that are involved over at that league for putting on this show in the first place. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Jay Kennedy alongside me and controlling the cameras. Bye for now, but not forever from us at SimSpeed TV.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.